the more Japanese government became very much seriously involved in taking care of, taking care of the problems that are created by the decrease of birth rate and aging societies, the government came to realize that it is the policy alone, governmental policy alone, cannot take care of these problems. And then, right now, at this very point in Japan, the government, local government, and then industrial sectors, individual company, all the companies, and the education, and then the family, the couples, are trying to restructure the society in a way that the care of elderly people will be socialized, because the family size has become very small. In the past, the large family existed in the village and in rural areas, and even in the cities, where the parents will live with the first son's family, and then daughters who are not married, or the married but returned to their original home through divorce, or the second and third sons who did not get married and has not established their own household, will continue to live in a large family. So there are lots of people in the family who can, share the labor concerning the elderly care and so forth. But in nuclear family, that became a very basic form of family in Japan after the war with new constitutions. There are parents, and then normally 2 children, but with the decrease of the birth rate, it became very typical that the family will have only 1 child. So there is no labor force in the family. And at the same time, in 1960s, particularly when Japan was really developing itself, coming out of after the war, the lack of the power, economic power, and so forth, there is an economic boom in Japan in 1960s that brought Japan to the very economically active nation in the world. So many people moved from the countryside to the city. And then the labor division, according to gender, became a very standard way of taking care of the family. The husband will work outside and earn their living, and the wife will stay at home bearing the children and taking care of the reproduction of the labor force of the husband. And it looks on the surface very logical that the husband will work and then women will stay at home, and then the very important job of raising the children will be taken care of by the full-time housewife. But of course, it's really on the theoretical level, and it didn't work well. And you all know that there is a full housewives problems that really damage the social stability and then safety in the United States and in Japan as well. I'm quite sure it has taken place in China as well. Simply because that this gender-based the division of labor is not confined in the families, but it spilled over to the workplace. So in companies, Japan had experienced for a long time this double track of working conditions. Women are hired as a general worker that included serving the tea, while men are given more responsible works, and that created the path to be promoted to the top of the companies. But women could not have this the path, the track of doing something very important to become a responsible, person of the company. There is a differential treatment that women. The retirement age was supposed to be 50, while men will retire at 55. By the way, I was surprised to learn that in Chinese universities, still the men's retirement is 55 and the women are 50. And that was really a surprise to me. But then the scale of salaries are different, and women are supposed to retire when they have a baby. So it becomes very difficult for women to come back to the labor market and to the work. It became very difficult for women to have their own career, at least. And Japan has put lots of investment in the education of women after the war. When I went to the university, entered the college in 1956, only 12% of high school students went to the college, to the universities among boys, and only 2.1% of women went to the university. So it was only a very, very minority of women who had a college educations. But by the end of 1960s, the percentage of women who go to the universities increased drastically, and double track in education was eliminated. Women can have the equal education in Japan, and at least in the field of education, there was no differential, double track in education between men and women. And by 1997, more women enters the university than men. And it continues to be that way right now. The more girls go to the university than men. So that means the nation as a whole put a tremendous effort to encourage women to be educated. But the nation as a whole cannot have a return from this investment in terms of the developing the economics in the society. Women are away from the market and the workplace in Japan. They stayed at home. So very many educated women did not work in the society. And women had been really working hard and fighting against this discrimination, obvious discriminations against women, preventing women to work in the society and confined in the family. But the changes came very, very slowly. Only in 1999, that is really the last year of the 20th century, the new law of man and woman working equally, participating equally in the society was installed. That is the governmental policy. Now, Japan has a constitution that was installed in 1946 that assures the equality between men and women. And if you look at the world, it is very rare that the Constitution has written very clearly that men and women should be equal in the society. Even the United States did not have that a statement, that code. So there's an REA movement that has been going on that needs this ratification of the states. But still, it goes on without that phrase. The Japanese Constitution is far advanced in terms of assuring the equal rights in men and women, but it was only 50 years later that Japan realized that this inequality between men and women is not to damage the women itself, but to damage the society as a whole. So the new law was installed. Why? Because Japan, it became very obvious that Japan is aging. And if women are kept at home, it doesn't increase the birth rate at all, but actually to have more children in a nuclear family, and then child rearing and taking care of all these responsibilities of raising the children, it's put on one housewife, where in the family there is no other help. Japanese economy developed very radically, so the help is very expensive. And so it was too much for a woman, a housewife, to have many children. So the birth rate decreased very radically. And at the same time, Japan enjoys the longest, longevity now. The women live the longest in the world. So it means all of a sudden, at the end of the 20th century, the government realized that Japan needs women to work in the production sector of the society and work hard and pay tax as a revenue, governmental revenues for the insurance policies for aging people, to take care of aging people and others. On the other hand, government has to let women have babies at home. So the two are opposing things. In the pre-war period, women has to choose either the work or to stay at home, child raising or work in the society. But now it's became very clear that women has to work in the society at the same time have babies. And of course, this aging society is a gender issue because women live longer than men. So the recent statistics tells us that men believe that they will go faster than women, their wives. So they believe they will be taking care of their wives, and they don't doubt about this. And then in a case there is a daughter in the family, the father, husband, just believes bluntly that the daughter will take care of him. But it is very different in the case of the women. The poll says the women do not expect their husband to take care of them in their old age. And even the husband exists, continue to live, the women don't want to be taken care of their husband. And then I think it's very natural. I understand it very well. But anyhow, in that way, the elderly society, aging society is the question of gender very much. So then they realized that women has to work and have their own savings and then has to contribute to the insurance policy, which Japan was very early to install it, that we put certain amount of money for national pension and also for the care of the elderly. So at certain times that we can receive this help from the tax. But then we need more people who work in the society and they put the money in that national tax policies. So all of a sudden the government realized